so many things to learn from Cedar Glades, not only about the plant diversity, about plant geography, and these disjunct populations and plant endemism, the unique zonation in the Cedar Glades because of their dynamism and their diversity, both on the community level and the species level, I think is what makes it just phenomenal, and we're very fortunate to have that ecosystem here in Middle Tennessee.
It's a wonderful place to see the zones of the Cedar Glade. You see the gravel area, Nashville breadroot blooming in the gravelly areas. You've got the grassy areas are kind of on the edges, back in the back, but and then the shrubby stuff, and then the cedars, and then farther out you'll have the hardwoods.
Calcareous limestone glades are extraordinary systems. They're very unique, and really here in the heart of the Central Basin, we are also at the heart of diversity in glade systems. So we have plants that don't occur anywhere else in the area. They're in the world, and they're unique plants. They're plants that have adapted to survival in an extremely harsh environment that's flooded in the wintertime and is completely without water in the summer. They're wide open, they're hotter than any of the surrounding area. Very little soil in those systems and very little water. So plants have some very unique adaptations to those conditions. So it's unique, and it's important, and it's valuable for those reasons, and they're beautiful. It's a shame that so few people in Middle Tennessee really recognize how gorgeous they are, how unique and how special.
If you all will look out over across this area, you can see that right in front of us it's still cleared out and there's rocks that are sticking up through. But when you look back further, what do you all see?
Colorful trees.
You see colorful trees, and the trees, they get tall, they produce shadows, and they shade out the plants of the glade that we're learning about today. So this particular area is undergoing a transition right now, in that the tall cedars will eventually shade out the area, and the plants that we're looking at won't be able to grow there. What we see in the background, those purple trees, those are so beautiful. Those are redbud trees, and they're in the same group as the milk vetch and the Pines ground plum. They're in the pea family. See, there it is right there. Whoa. So we're going to come around, come around. Come around.
Maggie, this is your plant, the Pines ground plum. We're going to go by it. This plant is so rare, it is found only in Rutherford County. You cannot find it anywhere else in the world.
My parents came to visit me in Middle Tennessee, and like you say, I didn't have a botany degree. I was sort of an amateur wildflower guy, or hippie wildflower guy, if you want to say that. And we were riding down the road, and what caught our eye was the fruit of the plant. We saw it with that bright red fruit. And that's where I said, you know, I'm not a professional botanist, but I've been thinking about Cedar Glades for 4 or 5 years and looked at a lot of the plants. But we saw that red fruit, and I said, this cannot be anything that we've ever seen before. It is so different with that bright red fruit that was just turning color. And I knew enough to think, well, it's probably an astragalus, and then got with experts and talked to other people, and then it turned out to be not just a disjunct population of a Kansas astragalus, which was one hypothesis, but actually a species new to science. And that's probably one of the most amazing things that's ever happened to me. But it was the bright red fruit that caught our eye in May of 1980.
Okay, this is Pines ground plum, and there's another plant that looks a lot like this, except for the flowers are yellow. It's very, very pretty. These flowers are like a garden pea, and the thing that makes it different from the other plant is that the leaves are not hairy. And it just goes to show how scientists pay very close attention to the details of things in order to know how something's the same and how something's different. So people travel from all over the world to come here to look at this plant. It's not found anywhere else on the planet but here.
Well, again, we had this original hypothesis that it was a disjunct population of a Kansas astragalus, because some of the plants in the Cedar Glades are disjunct and some are unique species. The echinacea is kind of a case in point, where it's certainly related to other echinaceas of Kansas and the West, but it's its own unique species. So we contacted, Edwin Bridges and I contacted the world astragalus expert, Dr. Barnaby, who has probably passed on at this point. He was quite elderly then, but he came down to Middle Tennessee to see the astragalus in the field, and I remember he field dissected a pod. He cut a pod in half, and his determination of the configuration of the inner walls of the fruit was such that it got the name of the double bubble, the bibulatus, being sort of one sphere enclosed within another sphere, lacking the what you might call mesocarp between the two papery spheres. So that's where the scientific name originated, bibulatus, meaning sort of one bubble enclosed within another. And that's what distinguished it from the Kansas plant, the Crassicarpus, to which it's closely related. So at that point, again, I didn't have the academic training to do the description myself, and Barnaby and Bridges did that in 1984, I believe. So and then after that, it was a no-brainer that it needed to be federally listed. So it was a pretty rapid process of federal listing, I think, after it was formally described in either 84 or 86.
And the plant's named after you?
Well, the common name, yes, the common name. So it is called Pines ground plum.
Ryan, pick that pod up. That's the pod of the Missouri primrose.
What page does everybody need to be on, Miss Lassiter?
13.
Everybody turn to page 13.
Isn't that beautiful? Hold it to the camera so he can see it. And look what it's going to look like. See, that's when it was.
Ryan has a seed pod for Missouri primrose, and he's going to walk around and show each of you the seed pod to his plant. Zachary, we're going to see your grass. Your blue-eyed grass is not a grass, but it'll be in here with the spirobolus hanging out.
The relationship to the strata and the type of zones we see, you can figure out which zone you're in by looking at the environment around you, because if you were in zone 1, you would look for flat out rock, and if you were looking and you were seeing if you were in zone 2, you would be looking at gravelly glades, and in zone 3 you would be starting to see some grass come up, and you'd see some plants there. In zone 4, you get high grass and a lot of plants. And zone 5 is cedar trees. Then zone 6 would be just a forest.